When you book an Airbnb, you expect comfort, maybe even a little charm. But what if you woke up in the clothes you never put on? What if something watched you through the mirror? Or worse, what if someone was living inside the walls the entire time? These aren't just scary stories. These are real experiences from real guests who thought they were spending a quiet night away and end up trapped in someone else's nightmare. I found 20 of the most shocking and terrifying Airbnb stories ever shared. Things so twisted, so unexplained that some guests still don't know what happened to them. From secret crawl spaces to hidden cameras to ghostly visitors no one can explain. This video will change the way you look at every single rental. And just when you think it can't get any worse, story number 1 will give you chills. So if you're watching this at night, turn on a light. And if you've ever stayed at an Airbnb, hit that like button. Number 20, the guest that never left. In Seattle, a man booked a charming studio apartment for a weekend getaway. Everything seemed normal until he noticed small changes. Pillows moved, lights he swore he turned off now on, and drawers slightly open. He thought he was imagining things until the final night when he set up a motion-activated camera. The footage showed a man, thin and pale, emerging from a hidden crawl space behind the dresser in the middle of the night. He wandered the apartment, stared at the guest while he slept, ate food from the fridge, and silently disappeared back into the wall. Number 19. The bloodstains were fresh. A couple checked into an upscale Airbnb in California. The place was spotless until the wife noticed a strange smell coming from under the bed. When they lifted the mattress, they found dark, sticky blotches on the carpet. They assumed it was old wine until the husband touched it. It was wet. They called the host, but before he responded, the listing vanished. Later, they found news articles about a missing woman last seen at that address. The police wouldn't say anything more. Number 18. You weren't supposed to be here tonight. A woman had driven 5 hours to get to the remote Vermont cabin, excited for a peaceful weekend alone. That night, she woke up to a voice, faint, almost a whisper. You weren't supposed to be here tonight, it said. She froze. There was no one in the room. She turned on every light and locked every door. The next morning, her car tires had been slashed, and the host didn't answer her calls. When she returned with a tow truck later, the entire cabin was empty and all her belongings were gone. Number 17. Room 4 wasn't on the listing. In a large Victorian rental in Louisiana, the guest found 4 bedrooms, but the listing had only mentioned 3. Room 4's door was sealed tight. Out of curiosity, he leaned his ear against the door. That night, he was woken up by the sound of creaking floorboards and the distant rhythmic squeak of a rocking chair. The host claimed the room was for storage and hadn't been opened in years, but when he left, he swore he heard someone sigh behind the door and the sound of something dragging across the floor. Number 16. The face in the mirror. From the moment this guy arrived to his booking, the mirrors felt off. They reflected him, sure, but something was wrong with his eyes. They were blacked out and hollow. Every photo he took showed a blurry figure just behind him. On the 3rd night, he cleaned the mirror and saw a second face behind his shoulder, expressionless, pale, and staring directly into the glass. When he turned around, no one was there, but his reflection didn't move for 3 full seconds after. Number 15. The locked basement. The host was friendly but firm. Please don't go in the basement. Naturally, the guest's curiosity got the better of him. He picked the lock and descended the old wooden stairs into a room filled with antique dolls, hundreds, all facing him. One of the dolls was wearing the exact outfit he had on. Same hat, same necklace. The lights flickered and he bolted back upstairs, but the front door wouldn't open. He was trapped in the house until dawn when it mysteriously clicked open. The dolls were never mentioned in the listing or by the host. Number 14. Airbnb, or funeral home. The smell was faint, like formaldehyde masked with an air freshener. The guest assumed it was just an old house, but one night, a strange draft blew open a door at the back of the hallway. Inside was a cold tiled room with embalming tables, stained clothes, and rusted metal tools. When the guest confronted the host, she casually explained the house used to be a funeral home. She smiled and added, "Sometimes they still come back here." He didn't ask what she meant. Number 13. The guest book that wrote back. It was a cozy mountain cabin. On the coffee table sat a leather-bound guest book. No names, just scribbles. "Did you hear it last night? It knocked again. Don't answer the door." The guest wrote, "I didn't hear anything." Later that night, a soft knock echoed through the cabin. When he opened the guest book again, a new line had been added beneath his. "You will tonight." Number 12. A stranger's voice on the baby monitor. A family brought their 1-year-old to a peaceful Airbnb retreat. That night, the baby monitor started crackling, then humming. A soft male voice whispered lullabies, old ones, in a strange accent. The parents checked the room, nothing. When they showed the audio to the host, she turned white and said, "That's my father's voice. He passed away in that room a decade ago." Number 11. 3 a.m. housekeeping. A man was woken up by a sound of drawers opening and footsteps in the kitchen. Thinking housekeeping had arrived early, he got up, but the house was empty. When he checked the door camera, it showed someone walk out of the front door at 3:11 a.m., but the door never opened. No entry, no exit. When he rewound the footage, the figure had no face. Number 10. Someone else's stuff. Inside the closet were jeans, jackets, and shoes. The drawers were full of clothes and photos of family the guest didn't know. He messaged the host, who claimed the house had been fully reset, but a neighbor later revealed the truth. The property wasn't even owned by the host. It was being illegally sublet while the real owners were on vacation and had no idea strangers were staying there. Number 9. The night visitor. At exactly 2:44 a.m. every night, something knocked on the window, just once, sharp but precise. A few days later, she decided to stay awake with her phone camera ready. What she captured showed a person, or a thing, standing completely still at the window for nearly 2 hours. It never blinked, never moved. Then it was just gone, and the camera didn't show it walking away. Number 8. The hidden camera in the smoke detector. The smoke detector above the bed looked odd, slightly newer than the others. The couple took it down and found a hidden camera inside. The host insisted he didn't know anything about it, but when police searched the property, they found a laptop with folders labeled with dates and the thumbnails of dozens of other couples, all unaware. Number 7. Whispers in the walls. At first, he thought it was just the wind. Then he heard voices, faint and muffled, but talking. They got louder at night, whispers chanting his name. He asked the host if the house had any history. She admitted it was once part of a 1930s asylum, a place for experimental treatments, and none of the patients ever left. Number 6. She woke up in the wrong outfit. A woman went to bed in a hoodie and sweatpants, but woke up in a silk nightgown. Her suitcase was untouched, her locks were still bolted, and the nightgown, it smelled like men's cologne. She checked the cameras, and they had been disabled at exactly 2:03 a.m. and turned back on an hour later. Number 5. The Airbnb that didn't exist. It was a beautiful listing, remote lake views and rustic charm. But when the couple arrived, the house was rotted and condemned, windows shattered and doors boarded up. They tried calling the host and no answer. The listing was removed by morning, but Airbnb confirmed the booking had gone through and that the address had no prior complaints, ever. Number 4. The missing time. A man arrived at 3 p.m., checked in, and unpacked. Then he blinked, and it was morning. Not the next morning, 2 days later. He had sand in his shoes, scratches on his back, and a receipt from a diner 2 towns over. The host swore to him that he never left the property. So where had he been? Number 3. The crying girl in the closet. A woman heard crying behind the closet door, childlike and desperate. But when she opened it, no one was inside. Later, while reviewing her phone's voice memo app, she discovered a recording had started on its own, and a whisper came through the static. Don't let him find me. Number 2. You're not the first. A loose floorboard in the bedroom creaked under this guest's foot. Curious, the guest pried it open. Beneath it was a torn leather journal, pages and pages of handwritten notes from previous guests, and all of them described the same hallucinations, the same dreams, the same scratching in the walls. The final page had 3 words scribbled in frantic ink. You're not the first. Number 1. The host that never aged. 10 years ago, a woman stayed in a lovely Airbnb, hosted by a friendly woman in her 40s. Now a decade later, she returned. Same property and same host profile photo, but when the door opened, it was the exact same woman. Not a wrinkle, not a gray hair, not one thing different. As she greeted her, she joked, "You haven't aged a day." The host smiled and said, "This house doesn't let you age." Now you just heard 20 real stories, not urban legends. These were actual experiences shared by people who walked into a home expecting peace and walked out changed forever. They heard whispers no one else could hear. They woke up with time missing, scratches on their back, and shadows that didn't belong to them. And the terrifying truth is, this is still happening right now. Somewhere out there, a guest is checking into a rental, completely unaware of what's already waiting inside. But these were just some stories told by survivors. If this video gave you chills, there's more. A lot more waiting for you on this channel. Terrifying investigations, real horror stories, footage they don't want you to see. So don't leave without subscribing and turning on post notifications. And hit that like button if you made it to the end, because that means you're one of the few brave enough to stare into the dark and not blink. Remember, not every door should be opened, not every voice should be answered, and not every place on earth wants you to leave.